The rain felt like it had a grudge. Cold, sharp drops slapped against the broken pavement as people rushed past the small roadside tea stall, umbrellas tilted, shoulders hunched. No one noticed the man sitting alone on the low plastic stool. No one ever did. His left leg was stiff, unmoving. A cheap metal brace wrapped around it, peeking out from beneath worn military trousers that no longer matched his faded jacket. Every time he shifted, there was a dull metallic clink, a sound that made nearby customers glance, then quickly look away. He was 35, maybe younger, but hardship had carved deep lines into his face. His back was straight, his posture disciplined, almost unnatural for a man selling tea on the street. His eyes, dark and calm, carried something unsettling. Not sadness, not anger, silence. His name was Lee Chun, at least that's what the city records said. To everyone else, he was just the crippled ex-soldier who amounted to nothing. "Hey, layman, you going to stand there all day?" a customer barked. Lee Chun nodded once. Slowly, he poured the tea with steady hands, never spilling a drop, even as pain shot through his leg like fire. He placed the cup down gently, bowed slightly, and stepped back. The customer scoffed. What kind of soldier comes back broken and useless? The words landed hard. Lee Chun didn't react. He had heard worse. Across the street, a luxury car rolled to a stop. The polished black paint reflected the gray sky. The door opened, and a woman stepped out, elegant, confident, dressed in a coat worth more than Lee Chun earned in a year. She froze when she saw him. For a split second, something flickered in her eyes. Disgust, embarrassment, regret. Then she walked toward him, heels clicking sharply against the wet ground. "Lee Chun," she said coldly, "we need to talk." The tea stall went quiet. People sensed drama. Lee Chun looked up. This woman, Su Yen, had once promised to marry him. 5 years ago, when he was still wearing a uniform, when medals weighed down his chest, when his future looked limitless, she had held his hands and said she'd wait forever. Forever had ended the day he returned home on crutches. "What do you want?" Lee Chun asked quietly. Su Yen crossed her arms. "I'm engaged." He nodded once. "Congratulations." His calm unsettled her. "He's the vice president of the Gene Group," she added quickly, as if to justify herself. "He has connections. Power. Money. I can't waste my life with someone who can't even walk properly." A few customers snickered. Lee Chun felt the familiar sting, not in his leg, but in his chest. Still, his face remained blank. "I returned everything you gave me," Su Yen continued, pulling a small box from her purse and placing it on the table. Inside lay an old ring, cheap silver, slightly bent. "You were a mistake," she said. "A phase. Let's end this cleanly." Lee Chun stared at the ring. Memories surged, gunfire, explosions, screaming orders, comrades falling one by one. He closed the box. "Very well," he said. That was all. Su Yen frowned. She had expected anger. Begging. Tears. "Don't look at me like that," she snapped. "You're not the man you used to be." Lee Chun met her gaze. "No," he agreed softly. "I'm not." She turned and walked away, heels splashing through puddles, climbing back into the car that carried her toward a glittering future. Laughter erupted behind him. Did you see her face? Even his woman dumped him. A soldier who can't fight. What a joke. Lee Chun sat back down, shoulders squared, hands resting calmly on his knees. They didn't know. None of them knew. 5 years ago, during a classified border war that never made the news, Lee Chun hadn't been just a soldier. He had been the war god, commander of the Shadow Legion, the man whose name alone made enemy generals resign overnight, the man who ended wars before they began. His injury wasn't from losing a fight. It was from ending one. A sacrifice ordered from above. A deal made in blood. To preserve peace, he had vanished, identity erased, honors sealed, existence denied. Live as a normal man, they had told him. Disappear, they had ordered. And so he did. Until today. Across town, in a towering glass building, alarms suddenly blared. A military officer burst into a secure room, pale-faced. "Sir, the Black Seal has been activated." "What?" The general stood abruptly. "That seal hasn't moved in 5 years." "Location confirmed," the officer whispered. "It's Li Chun." Silence crashed down. The general's hands trembled. He wouldn't activate it unless, he swallowed. Unless the war god himself has been insulted. Back at the tea stall, Li Chun stared at the rain-soaked street. His phone, an old, cracked device, vibrated once. A single message appeared. "Command authority detected. Awaiting order." Li Chun exhaled slowly. He looked down at his lame leg. Then he typed 2 words. "Assemble." Somewhere far beyond the city lights, engines roared. Satellites realigned. Bases unlocked. And 1 million troops began to move. The tea stall owner was the first to notice something was wrong. Not wrong in the way storms felt wrong or how customers argued over change, but wrong in a way that made the air itself feel heavier, as if the world had taken a breath and forgotten how to exhale. Li Chun sat exactly where he had been minutes earlier. Same calm posture. Same distant gaze. But the rain around him seemed to hesitate, as if even the sky was unsure how to behave in his presence. The old phone in his hand went dark. No dramatic sound. No flashing lights. Just silence. Yet thousands of kilometers away, silence shattered. Deep beneath a mountain range, hidden from every satellite except one, a steel door engraved with an unmarked emblem unlocked for the first time in 5 years. Red lights flickered to life along underground corridors. Screens powered on, flooding command rooms with scrolling data. A young officer froze in place as a symbol appeared on every monitor. A black insignia shaped like a broken sword. His face drained of color. That can't be real," he whispered. The room erupted. "Verify authentication. Cross-check biometrics. Confirm command hierarchy." A senior colonel slammed his hand on the console. "It is real. Stop questioning it." The colonel straightened, back rigid, voice trembling with reverence. "The war god has returned." Across the continent, similar scenes unfolded. In desert bases where heat shimmered above armored divisions, soldiers snapped to attention as sealed orders auto-decrypted. On icy naval carriers cutting through black waters, alarms echoed, not warnings but summons. Pilots halted mid-briefing. Generals abandoned negotiations. Satellites reoriented without civilian authorization. One order had pierced every level of command. "Assemble." Back in the city, none of this was visible. Cars honked. Vendors shouted. Rain kept falling. 2 men in suits stopped at the tea stall, shielding themselves with umbrellas. One pointed at Li Chen's leg and smirked. "Another useless veteran," he muttered. "Government wastes money on people like him." Li Chen poured tea. The liquid trembled slightly, not from his hand, but from a low vibration traveling through the ground, so faint no one else noticed. A bus driver nearby frowned, checking his mirrors. "You feel that?" "Feel what?" someone replied. The vibration passed. Li Chen's gaze sharpened for a fraction of a second. They were on the move. In a penthouse office 30 floors above the city, Su Yan stood before floor-to-ceiling windows, staring at her reflection. Her phone buzzed repeatedly, messages from friends congratulating her engagement. She smiled. This was the life she chose. Stability. Prestige. Power. "Who were you talking to downstairs?" her fiancé asked, adjusting his cufflinks. "An old mistake," she replied lightly. "Someone from my past." He chuckled. "Good riddance. People like that drag you down." Su Yan hesitated for half a second, then nodded. She didn't see the military alert flash briefly across the city skyline screens before being instantly cut. In the capital, the highest security chamber convened in emergency session. A gray-haired general slammed a folder onto the table. "Shadow Legion units are mobilizing without presidential authorization." "That's impossible," a minister snapped. "Those units were disbanded." "No," the general replied grimly. "They were sealed." Silence followed. A younger official swallowed. "There's only one man with authority over them." The room turned cold. "The war god," someone whispered. The general nodded. And if he has issued a command, then something has crossed a line. What line? The minister demanded. The general closed his eyes. The line between peace and annihilation. At the tea stall, Li Chen stood. It was a simple motion, but it cost him. His legs screamed in protest as he shifted his weight, gripping the table for balance. Sweat beaded at his temple, mixing with rain. A passerby laughed. Look at him. Can barely stand. Li Chen ignored the noise. He reached beneath his jacket and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. He unwrapped it slowly. A small, battered metal token, no larger than a coin, blackened by age, etched with the same broken sword insignia now lighting up command centers across the world. The tea stall owner's eyes widened. What is that? Li Chen met his gaze. Nothing you need to worry about, he said. The old man shivered, though he didn't know why. A helicopter lifted off from a covert base beyond the city limits. Inside, a colonel stared at the coordinates flashing on his tablet. All units report ETA. Ground forces, 6 hours. Air squadrons, 90 minutes. Naval assets, 12 hours. The colonel clenched his fist. 1 million troops, he whispered. All for one man. Li Chen's phone vibrated again. This time, the screen filled with lines of encrypted confirmations. Shadow Legion, active. Commanders awaiting instruction. Authorization absolute. Li Chen closed his eyes. He remembered kneeling in the mud, blood soaking his uniform, as he gave the order that ended the war and destroyed his leg. He remembered choosing silence over glory, anonymity over power. He had kept his promise. The world hadn't. A memory surfaced. Su Yan's voice, sharp and cruel. You're not the man you used to be. Li Chen opened his eyes. She was right. He was no longer just a soldier. He was the consequence. High above the clouds, a satellite locked onto the city, prioritizing one small tea stall as a strategic point of interest. A junior analyst blinked. Sir, why are we tracking a street vendor? The supervisor swallowed hard. Because, he said, that crippled man down there is the most dangerous person alive. Li Chen stepped away from the stall, rain soaking his shoulders. He didn't look back. Behind him, the city remained ignorant, laughing, mocking, moving on with its small lives. Ahead of him, the world was assembling. And in Section 3, the first person would realize just how badly they had misjudged him. The Gene Group's annual charity banquet was supposed to be flawless. Crystal chandeliers reflected off marble floors. A live orchestra played softly in the background. Politicians, CEOs, and celebrities filled the hall, each smile polished, each handshake calculated. Su Yan stood at the center of it all. She wore a silver gown that hugged her figure perfectly, a diamond necklace catching every flash of light. On her arm was Zhao Ming, vice president of the Gene Group, young, powerful, and ambitious. Tonight, their engagement would be announced to the city's elite. This is your night, Zhao Ming whispered confidently. After today, no one will ever look down on you again. Su Yan smiled. She didn't notice the military-grade jammers quietly activating around the building. Across town, Li Chen stopped in front of the banquet hall. The guards eyed him with open contempt. Hey, this is a private event, one barked. Go around back if you're delivering something. Li Chen looked at the glass doors. Inside, laughter sparkled brighter than the chandeliers. I'm here for someone, he said calmly. The guard scoffed, eyes flicking to Li Chen's brace. You lost, old man? Charities for donors, not beggars. Li Chen took another step. Before the guards could react, their radios crackled, then died. The air shifted. A black sedan rolled silently to the curb. Then another, and another. Men and women stepped out, dressed in plain suits, but their posture was unmistakable. Military. Elite. Dangerous. The guards froze. One of the newcomers approached Li Chen, dropped to one knee on the wet pavement, and bowed his head. Shadow Legion Commander, he said quietly. All local units await your command. The street went silent. Li Chen rested a hand on the man's shoulder. Stand up. We're not here for war. The man obeyed instantly. The guards' faces turned white. Inside the hall, the orchestra faltered. A murmur rippled through the guests as every screen suddenly went black. Then one image appeared. A broken sword. Older officials stiffened. Younger ones looked confused. Zhao Ming frowned. What kind of tasteless prank? The doors swung open. Li Chen walked in. He didn't belong here, his clothes were plain, his leg imperfect, but the room bent around him anyway. Conversations died. Smiles vanished. An invisible pressure settled over the crowd. Su Yan's breath caught. Him? Here? Zhao Ming sneered. Security, remove this man. No one moved. Instead, a middle-aged general in full dress uniform stepped forward from the crowd. His hands shook as he saluted, deep and formal. War God, the general said, voice hoarse. Forgive us for not recognizing you. The hall erupted. What did he just say? War God. That crippled man? Su Yan felt her knees weaken. Li Chen's gaze swept the room, stopping briefly on her. No anger. No bitterness. Just distance. General Liu, Li Chen said. You look well. The general swallowed hard. I live because of you. Then slowly, deliberately, the general knelt. One knee to the marble floor. The sound echoed like thunder. Every military officer in the hall followed. Kneel. 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 Zhao Ming staggered back, face drained of blood. This is impossible. He's a nobody. Li Chen turned to him. You used my name to block relief funds in the Western District, Li Chen said quietly. 3 villages went hungry. Zhao Ming's mouth opened. No sound came out. I don't care about your ambition, Li Chen continued. But I do care about the cost. He raised his phone. One tap. Screens lit up again, this time showing live footage. Armored columns rolling. Fighter jets taking off. Naval fleets cutting through waves. A number blinked at the corner of the screen. 1 million active personnel. The crowd gasped. Li Chen lowered the phone. One command, he said softly. That's all it takes. Su Yan stumbled forward. Li Chen, I didn't know. I swear. If I had. He looked at her then. Truly looked. You chose comfort over character, he said. That was your right. Tears streamed down her face. I was afraid. So was I, Li Chen replied. Every day. He turned away. Zhao Ming collapsed to his knees, grabbing Li Chen's trouser leg. Please. I can fix this. I have connections. Li Chen gently removed the man's hand. You already fixed it, he said. By showing everyone who you are. He nodded once. General Liu stood. Understood. Security moved in, not private guards, but uniformed officers. Zhao Ming was escorted out, screaming. Li Chen faced the stunned guests. This banquet was meant for charity, he said. Let it be one. He gestured. Relief fund accounts updated in real time. Donations multiplied. Contracts froze. Corruption networks collapsed like dominoes. The guests watched helpless. Li Chen headed for the exit. As he reached the door, Su Yan whispered, What are you now? Li Chen paused. Still a soldier, he said. Just no longer invisible. Outside, the night air felt lighter. A helicopter hovered in the distance, lights dimmed. Li Chen stepped into the rain once more. Behind him, the city's elite trembled. Ahead of him, the world waited. And in Section 4, those who mocked him publicly would pay the price, not with blood, but with truth. By morning, the city was no longer the same. People woke up to buzzing phones, frozen bank accounts, and headlines that made their hands tremble. Vice President of Gene Group detained in anti-corruption sweep. Shadow Legion confirmed. War God returns after 5 years. Relief funds restored to Western District overnight. News anchors struggled to keep their voices steady. Analysts argued on live television. Comment sections exploded with disbelief. And at the center of it all, a single name, Li Chen. At a cramped apartment on the city's outskirts, the tea stall owner sat frozen in front of his old television. That's him, he whispered. That's the lame man from my stall. The broadcast replayed footage from the banquet. Generals kneeling, Zhao Ming dragged away, Li Chen standing calm amid chaos. The old man's hand shook. He remembered how lightly Li Chen bowed when serving tea. How carefully he counted change. How he never complained. Outside, neighbors gathered, whispering in fear and awe. We mocked him. He was a god the whole time. Across the city, those who had laughed loudest now hid the deepest. The customer who had called Li Chen useless watched officers seal his company doors. His illegal contracts, signed years ago, were suddenly pulled from the shadows. How did they find this? He stammered. The officer replied coldly, You benefited from stolen military supplies. The war god noticed. The man collapsed into a chair. Truth didn't need violence. Truth was enough. At the Gene Group headquarters, chaos ruled. Executives were escorted out one by one. Screens flashed frozen assets and revoked privileges. Zhao Ming's office, once a symbol of power, was stripped bare within hours. Su Yan sat alone in a conference room, eyes red, makeup streaked. Her phone buzzed nonstop, friends cutting ties, partners canceling deals, relatives asking questions she couldn't answer. She finally picked up one call. Yen, her mother sobbed. They're saying everything we have came from illegal funds. Is it true? Su Yan's throat tightened. She remembered Li Chen's words. Comfort over character. The line cut off. She slid down the glass wall and buried her face in her hands. For the first time, she understood. She hadn't lost Li Chen 5 years ago. She had lost herself. Meanwhile, in a secure military hospital outside the city, Li Chen sat quietly as doctors reviewed scans projected onto a screen. The damage to your leg is severe, one said gently. You've been compensating for years. Without surgery, the pain will worsen. Li Chen nodded. Will it stop me from walking? The doctor hesitated. Eventually, yes. A colonel standing nearby clenched his fists. Sir, if we had known. You did know, Li Chen interrupted calmly. You just followed orders. So, did I. The room fell silent. Prepare the operation, Li Chen added. But keep it quiet. Yes, sir. As the doctors left, the colonel stepped forward. The nation wants you back. Publicly. They're calling for a ceremony. Medals. Apologies. Li Chen looked out the window, where dawn painted the sky pale gold. No, he said. Power should arrive quietly, and leave the same way. But sir, the colonel pressed, people mocked you. They humiliated you. Li Chen's voice was steady. That was their ignorance, not my wound. The colonel straightened and saluted. Later that day, Li Chen returned to the tea stall. The stall owner rushed out, nearly bowing. Sir. I didn't know, please forgive me. Li Chen gently steadied him. There's nothing to forgive. People gathered, phones raised, whispers rippling. Is that really him? The war god? Li Chen sat on the same plastic stool as before. Tea, he said. The owner's eyes filled with tears as he poured. Li Chen took a sip. Still warm. Still simple. Across the street, a small group of veterans approached, men with scars, missing limbs, tired eyes. They stopped a few steps away, unsure. One finally spoke. We heard what you did. For the villages. For us. Li Chen looked up. You don't owe me thanks, he said. You already paid. He stood, slowly, painfully, and saluted them. Every veteran snapped to attention, returning the salute with trembling hands. Pedestrians froze. Cameras clicked. The image would spread everywhere by nightfall. That evening, Su Yan stood outside the tea stall. She waited a long time before speaking. I never deserved you, she said softly. Li Chen didn't turn around. You deserved honesty, he replied. I couldn't give you that then. She swallowed. Is there any chance? He shook his head gently. Some battles are won, he said. Others teach us who we are. Tears fell freely now. Li Chen walked past her. Not in anger. In peace. Far above the city, satellites powered down. Troops returned to bases. The Shadow Legion slipped back into silence. But the damage was done. Truth had moved through the world like a tide, quiet, unstoppable. And as Li Chen disappeared once more into ordinary life, one question echoed everywhere. If a broken man could shake a nation without lifting a weapon, what would happen? If the world ever forced him to give another command? Weeks passed. The world moved on the way it always did, fast, distracted, hungry for the next scandal. New headlines replaced old ones. New villains took the place of disgraced executives. The name Li Chen slowly faded from daily conversation, turning into legend, then rumor. That was exactly how he wanted it. At a small coastal town far from the capital, a modest repair shop opened its doors every morning at sunrise. The sign above the door read, "Chun Repairs. Honest work, fair price." Inside, the air smelled of oil and salt. Tools hung neatly on the wall, each in its place. Behind the counter, Li Chun worked slowly but precisely, his movements economical, his expression calm. His legs still hurt. Some days it hurt badly. But pain had long ago lost its power over him. A young boy stood nearby, watching him intently. "Uncle Chun," the boy asked, "were you really in the army?" Li Chen tightened a bolt and smiled faintly. "A long time ago." "My dad says you saved a lot of people," the boy pressed. Li Chen paused, then handed him a wrench. "Your dad exaggerates. Hold this." The boy beamed, thrilled to be useful. Thousands of kilometers away, in a sealed underground chamber, a group of generals stood before a dark screen. "The Shadow Legion has fully disengaged," one reported. "All units back to standby. No leaks." The oldest general nodded. "And him?" "He refused all honors," the officer replied. "Changed locations. New identity pending." The general allowed himself a rare smile. A true soldier. Another officer hesitated. "Sir, what if the world needs him again?" The general's smile faded. "Then," he said quietly, "we will pray he chooses to answer." Back in the city, Su Yan sat in a small rented apartment, far from her old life. She worked at a bookstore now, shelving novels and sweeping floors. It was honest work. Some days, customers recognized her. Some whispered. Some pointed. She accepted it. At night, she often replayed the moment Li Chen walked away, his back straight, his steps slow but steady. She finally understood what strength looked like. Not power, restraint. One evening, a storm rolled in over the coast. Waves crashed violently against the pier. Fishing boats rocked dangerously. Sirens wailed in the distance. Li Chen stepped outside his shop, rain soaking his clothes, eyes scanning the horizon. A memory stirred. He felt it before he saw it. His phone vibrated. Once. The same old cracked screen lit up. Emergency beacon detected. Civilian evacuation failing. Authority override available. Li Chun closed his eyes. The shop lights flickered behind him. The boy from earlier watched nervously from the doorway. "Uncle Chun," he called. "Is something wrong?" Li Chun looked at the child. At the town. At the sea. He thought of the promise he'd made, to disappear, to live quietly, to never become a symbol again. Then he thought of the villages that had gone hungry, the soldiers who had knelt, the veterans who had saluted. He typed. Limited response. That was all. Out at sea, rescue helicopters lifted off, unmarked but precise. Naval vessels altered course, without public announcement. Emergency corridors opened where chaos had reigned. Fishermen were pulled from the water. Families were evacuated. By dawn, the storm had passed. News reports called it a miracle. No one mentioned the war god. The next morning, Li Chen reopened his shop. A small bouquet of wildflowers sat on the counter. No card. He smiled, set them in a jar, and got to work. The boy ran in, breathless. "Uncle Chun." They said the storm rescue was impossible, but everyone survived. Li Chun wiped his hands. Impossible just means difficult. The boy frowned thoughtfully, then grinned. Far away, in a quiet office, a general watched satellite footage fade to black. He answered. An aide said softly. "Yes," the general replied. And he chose mercy. The aide hesitated. Sir, is he a hero? The general considered the question.
No, he said.
He's a guardian. As the sun rose over the coast, Li Chen stepped outside, feeling its warmth on his face. He leaned on his cane. The world would never fully know his name. And that was his greatest victory. Because true power didn't demand recognition. It waited, silent, ready. And if the day ever came, when the world truly needed him again, one command would still be enough.